Hey, what's up everyone? Travis Pfeiffer here, bringing you a Deck Tech Talk. I put together this brand new Ice Water Final Fantasy VI deck based off of our good buddy Ultros here. Ultros is a really neat legend that came out in Opus 9, and he was one of those cards that we thought, well, he surely can only get better anytime you ever print more Ultroses, and I kind of ran him in water with some combo stuff, and like that worked out pretty well, but other than that, I was kind of looking for a new angle for him. So the nice thing is, we got a brand new Ultros in Opus 12, and that would be this little guy right here. Similar to that Ultros, you know, when he goes to the break zone, you can pay a water and you can search out an Ultros from your deck, add it to your hand, which is really nice. And then he has the action ability, he can tap himself, go into the break zone, and reduce something's power by 5,000. He's fine on his own, especially for a 2 cost, but he ultimately just exists to feed into this Ultros, since this Ultros says, for every Ultros card you have in your break zone, when he attacks, he does 2,000 damage to the entire board, and then that's going to go up by 1,000 for every other copy of Ultros you have. So, if you somehow get to that magical situation where you've got him on the field and all other 5 copies are in the break zone, he's doing a 7k board hit when he swings, which is pretty neat. So I started thinking, okay, well, what are some other ways we can like combine that? Because obviously, getting to that magical spot where you're 7k, I don't know how realistic that's going to be, but, you know, the 3k, 4, 5, totally realistic. So we have 3 copies of our girl Celis here, Legend Celis. She's going to freeze a character on entry, which is great. She's category 6, but anytime she deals damage, she can choose a dull forward and deal it 4k, which is a great little combo with Ultros. And these next couple cards I'm going to show you are all based around the idea of comboing with his, you know, board ping. So he attacks in, let's say this 3k to the board, they've got a 7k dull, Celis goes in, boom, deals you a point of damage, hits that one for another 4k, boom, knocks it out. That, plus she has her runic ability, which will let her cancel a summon and then reactivate, which is a special, and that we'll get to that in a second, because specials actually have kind of a neat place in this deck. So another person with a special, and another Ultros help, is Terra, the woman he was very lustily going after in Final Fantasy VI. So this Terra, when she enters the field, you choose 2 dull forwards they control, and you deal them 4,000 damage. Again, great combo with Celis, great combo with Ultros, you plop her down, boom, Ultros goes in. And what's nice is you can kind of do this on main phase too, so you can kind of psych your opponent out that like, you swing with the Ultros and they think, oh, well, that's not enough damage, you know, my guy's going to survive. Then Terra comes down, and boom, now you've just finished off a forward they weren't expecting. And then she can also pay an ice to deal another 1,000 damage to a dull forward, so you can just, again, if you need one more to finish someone off, you can do that. And then she also has a special where you just pay a Terra magic charge, and then if she deals damage to a forward, you double it for that turn. So you could do that with her entry to make her do 8k, or when Ultros goes in, you know, and then you can pay a special to, I don't know, hit the ice, make that do 2k. Probably not that one as much, but still, it's a nice little combo piece with that. Then, to kind of go with that Ultros, we have 3 copies of this Opus 11 Shiva. It's just really cheap removal, so 1 CP on a burst. It's going to hit a dull forward for 6,000 damage. So 6,000 plus Celis or Ultros or Terra, like basically combine that with anything. There's very little that's going to live through that. And then if you get your opponent to 5 damage, that goes all the way up to 9. So this basically becomes removal completely on its own. But again, just a great little combo piece with that. Backing up the Shiva, we're going to move it down here. 3 copies of Glacia Lavalis. Pretty much the best ice summon. It'll take a lot to actually change that. And again, just super convenient. 7k, you can combine it with any of these other pings. Throw something free, something discard. All that works great. And then finally, I wanted a water summon to help kind of balance out the colors. And I decided to go with this Cuchulainn of the Impure. He's an EX burst, which is great. So at his worst, he's an EX burst, draw you a card. Never a bad thing. But he reduces their power. He can reduce the power of a forward based on all the dull characters they have. So not only can it be used as a combat trick, you know, you block, let's say, Ultros a 9k versus another 9k, then you shrink it, so you get to win the combat and then you draw a card. Again, it's just another way to combo with all these. Swinging with Ultros, boom, deal, you know, 5k to them, and they're like, oh, all right, my guy's going to live. Cuchulainn on top of it, finish it off, and you get to draw yourself a card. It just feels really good. So this is kind of your ping package. This is the stuff that will help you, push Ultros forward, help him really make the most of that big board cleave, which is really nice. And of course, Ultros is very resilient too, that you can pay 2 water to pull out another copy of Ultros and put it dull on the field, which is really great. So, kind of going in with the 6 package is, it wouldn't be an Ice 6 deck without Locke. Locke, one of the best legends in the game, easily one of the best cards 6 has. This deck is loaded with 6 characters, so it's very easy to get his on-trigger discard, and then of course you're threatening to discard on attack every single time. And again, he's got a special as well. We'll get to that coming up shortly. So what are all the 6 characters Locke has to help trigger? My buddy Cody always uses Locke in Mono Ice, and I don't know how he makes it work, but he somehow often gets up to that. But I struggle with that. I always feel like Locke does its best in Fire Ice, or Ice Water, or whatever, some kind of combination so you can get as many 6 characters as possible. So we have 2 copies of Gestelian Empire Sid. This searches any category 6 forward, so as opposed to just searching Locke or Celis, this is going to grab basically any forward in this deck. I think there's 1 forward that's not a 6 character. Yeah. But other than that, he can grab any of these 6 forwards in the deck, which is great. We got 3 copies of the backup Setzer. It's an EX burst. It'll, again, let you fetch back any of these 6 forwards from the graveyard, which is fantastic. Hit that on a burst. Cool, let me get back a Celis special, or let me get back a Terra, or just, hey, maybe I'll recycle a version of Ultros because maybe I lost these 3 early or something. 1 copy of Ozer. When this came out last Opus, I really wasn't very high on this card because I just felt like its targets were so limited. So when he enters the field, you get to take control of a forward of 2 cost or less your opponent controls, and it comes to your side of the field and you just have complete control of it. But this Opus, with Bart's coming out, and the Shikaries and Shadow Lord, there's been a really big influx of 1 cost and 2 cost forwards that are pretty common. Like, imagine stealing your opponent's Shadow Lord with that. That would feel great. So I think he actually got a nice boost this set because so many of those little guys got printed that now he has a lot of targets. Plus, he is a 6 character, so if he's down, that's just 1 more that's going to help trigger Locke. And then we have 1 copy of Emperor Gestalt. When he enters the field, you just get to break a forward. That feels great. And again, he's a 6 character, so just 1 more to Locke. And then technically, once he's done his job, you can tap him and put him in the break zone, and you can play Dark Forward of 5 or less from your hand onto the field. And we have 1 single Dark Forward, and that is Kadaj. This is the 1 non-6 character in the deck. So here's your little combo piece with this, if you wish it. But, I mean, Kadaj is just incredible. Kadaj giving the 2K Brave is especially relevant with Ultros or Locke, especially in Ultros, keeping him active, that now he's this big blocker for you. Or his ability to dull someone, dulling someone to set them up for Celis, or to set them up from Terra or Shiva, just really, really helpful. How much more can you say about Kadaj? 2 copies of Umaro. I only actually own 1 physically, so this is a proxy, but yeah, it's 2 copies of this Legend Umaro. He's a big old body. He gets reduced by 2 if you had a Mog on the field. But more importantly, when he comes in, he picks a forward and he sends it to the bottom of your opponent's deck, which is honestly even better than like breaking it, because I've never seen someone then go on to search out that very forward you put down. Whereas if you broke it, there's a lot of stuff that pulls stuff back from the break zone, so maybe there's a chance they just get it right back. But Umaro's like, nah, get rid of that. And then as long as he's on the field, he's going to freeze 1 forward at the end of your turn every time. So again, keeping things dull to help set up for all these dull pings. He's fantastic. And we are running 2 copies of Mog from Opus 4. If you control 2 or more Category 6 forwards other than himself, then he cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities, so it gives him some protection. If he's on the field, Umaro is going to be 2 cheaper to come down, which is really, really nice. And then he has the ability that he can draw a card just by tapping himself every turn, which is really good. So if you get enough 6 forwards out, and have his protection up, he can't be chosen. Yeah, he's a weak power, but again, it's kind of hard when he can't be chosen unless they have like a big board wipe. And then, I don't know how often you would do this because he's such a small attacker, but let's say you had the chance to attack with him. If Kadaj gives him Brave, you can attack, get your attack, and then on the stack, dull it, tap him to draw your card anyway. But for the most part, if he gets out there and you've got enough, you're just going to be drawn. And again, they're going to want to get rid of him because they don't want you to just draw cards for free every turn, but the fact that he can't be chosen makes a big difference too. And then we have 2 copies of the new Strago. He's great, so when he enters, you choose a forward they control, bounce it to your hand, and then if you have a character, that's character, not just forward, backup, of the same cost as the one that was bounced, you get to play it on the field for free. So knock their 5 costs out of the way, bring down Umaro or Ultros. Gosh, if you could knock out a 7 and bring down Umaro, that would feel amazing. You could bring down any of these backups for free. Imagine bouncing a 5 out of the way, put down Ozer, then you grab their 2 costs. Like, it's just this major, major swing. And finally, our last forward, and this was kind of all the talk I meant with the specials, is 3 copies of this new realm. So, she's an EX Burst, which is great, and then when she enters the field, you choose a character without the multi-playable symbol, and you search your deck for that, and you add it to your hand. Now, when I first saw this card, I wasn't that high on it because I actually misread it. I thought it said forward, but it says character. That means backup as well. Well, you might think, well, what good's that going to do? Well, for the most part, if you think about it that way, it just reads, when she enters, draw a card. Because even if there's no forward, like let's say she's the only forward on your field, you can still pull out another Setzer or pull out another Sid and just, you know, okay, you just drew a card. Yeah, that card isn't technically going to do a whole lot for you, but it's still, you're drawing a card on entry, and it's something you can pitch for CP. But if she has any of these people with specials on the field, you can pull out a special copy. You got Celis on the field, pull out your Runic Blade, pull out your Mirage Dive, you know, pull out your Magic Charge with Terra. And to go with that, this was such a neat little trick. Probably one of my favorite ice backups is Edward, 3 copies of Edward. So if Realm enters the field and Edward's down, you can go grab Silent Verse. Think about that. That's really strong. That let me go fetch my summon cancel, and now your opponent knows, oh, cool, they're just going to cancel the next summon I have. Like, again, if it was just forward, I don't think it would be as good, but the fact that's character and you can fetch this, an extra copy of Edward, because there's so many games I've had where it's like, oh, if only I had Silent Verse. It's like, well, now I can go grab it. So that's the main bulk of the 6 package. Finally, a couple little tech options. 2 copies of Scholar, helps fill out our water CP, and, you know, just bouncing a character, your own character is never bad, especially for someone like Locke who you really want to protect. You know, if they're going to kill Locke, bounce Locke back to your hand, guess what? Now Locke's coming in again, they're going to discard again. Celis can freeze something again. Terra can do her ping again. So, you know, if you really had to, too, you could plop down Terra, Scholar bounce her back to your hand, Terra again, boom, you've just dealt 8k to 2 forwards. So, Scholar's always nice. 2 copies of Alchemist, helps fill out our water CP, gives us some cheap backups to play early. And then Alchemist, again, is just great because Alchemist says, hey, discard a card of a type and then go grab another one. If you need a Umaro or an Ultros to go close out the game, you can just pitch any forward and then boom, go grab it with Alchemist. So that feels really good. 1 copy of this Ice Summoner. It's a cheap 2CB backup. And again, it's kind of this hidden threat that's really easy to overlook, is that when you cast a summon, you know, you can break this, put this card in the break zone, and then dull freeze a forward an opponent controls, which, again, if they forget about this card or they're not expecting it, you Glacia, you say, okay, dull that, freeze that, break this, dull freeze another one. And what's really, really nice is that you don't have to tap this card to do it. You can pay, you know, use all the CP you want from this card, keep it dull, and then just break it when you need to. Backups like that are really, really nice. And then finally, 1 copy of Clavat. When he enters, you're just going to flip over the top cards till you hit an ice card, so just a way to kind of help search through your deck. But yeah, that's it. Kind of this really fun 6 package that, again, really kind of works well with Ultros' ping. Some tech options you can definitely consider. I don't own this card, so I wish I could show you a physical copy of it. Maybe I can put it on the screen here. It's the Strago from Opus 4, in that he's an EX Burst, and when he enters, as long as you control another 6 forward, you get to bounce something to your opponent's hand. And then he also has a special, which is Grand Delta, which normally I wouldn't think much of, but what it does 12,000 damage divided amongst all the forwards your opponent controls. So if they have 2 forwards, it'll do 6,000 to each. If they have 3 forwards, it'll do 4,000 to each, which again, it might not seem so great when they have more forwards, but it would be a great combination with Ultros. Ultros swings in, 4k to the board, Grand Delta, now you do another 4k or 6k or whatever. So this Strago is really good too, but I would definitely recommend giving that other Strago a try. He's really fun, and he combos well with them, so it's kind of just whatever your preference is. In another version of this, I've tried leaning into the Opus 11 realm and the Gao. They are good, they're fun, but then you have to get monsters in here, and I just didn't want to do that. I just wanted to focus this more on summons and forwards. But you could absolutely use that realm and that Gao if you wanted to go a more monster route. So, yeah, that's the deck. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. I'll have the deck list in the description below. Bye!